Shore. It's going to be the 1st of June to the 24th of June, and there'll be more info coming from them. So, now on to the main session, which is hopefully going to take us and inspire a few people. Karen Lawton's going to talk about audio-visual. She was the judge of the audio-visuals last year, and she did a fantastic job and showed us one or two. So now we tried to get her to come and talk about how to up the standard of AV, so that's what she's going to do. Karen started photographing with Auckland Photographic Society in 2007. I looked at this, said, we can all see our dates, and so she's been involved in photography for quite some time. She tells me she's not gear orientated, but she's actually picture orientated, and she really talks about abstracts and interpretive and types of images. But really, AVs is her main thing. Passion, that's the word, I found it somewhere. AVs is her passion. And true love, that's what I was thinking. AVs is the true love. So last year she talked a little bit about how we did it, but now she's going to come and tell us about how to think about it, how to develop it, and how to make AVs your passion. So what has happened here, or the way Karen's going to present it, is by a form of AV. She's going to show us 2 or 3, and she's going to really take us through her process of making an AV. The AV entries is about a month away. So what I'm hoping is you're going to come through this process, going to have something in the back of your head and go, oh, I think I can do this. I've got a month, a little bit over a month to put together an AV. So Karen's not only going to tell us about how, she's going to tell us about why, she's going to tell us about all sorts of things about AVs. And so I'm really hoping there'll be a bunch of CPS people got inspired and are going to pick it up, and there's going to be some really good entries in this year's AV competition. So, over to you. I'd like to now introduce Karen Lawton to talk about audio-visuals.
Thank you. Pretty big introduction. A couple of thank yous to start with, actually, and that's for everybody that's stuck around. I think doing a presentation is a little bit like inviting people to a party. You're never sure if anybody's going to turn up. Second thank you is to Ian, because this was his idea, and he knows very well that this has put me so far out of my comfort zone, but he tells me that that's a good thing for people. So I've got no PowerPoint, no notes, just talk and pictures, questions and answers. If you want to interrupt me and ask a question during this, might be good, because I'm going to get sick of hearing my own voice, I'm sure, and I can see you guys at the moment. I did a run through this afternoon and I realised it's quite a snappy little presentation, so hopefully you won't get bored. I won't take too long. Ian's intimated that the way I approach audiovisuals, they're a very personal journey. I'm aware that people within the audience are quite proficient audiovisual makers as well. So, as Ian has said, what I'm going to share here is it's more about my passion, not technical wizardry. I'm not a gear person and I'm not a technical wizard. But I am a qualified PSNZ judge in stills and audiovisuals. So obviously somebody somewhere thought I knew something about them. And I just want to share my approach. It's not everybody's approach, I get that. So tips and hints about what makes a genre interesting to me. I am going to kick off by showing you the very first audiovisual I ever made, and that was in 2011. I was in a fairly angsty space at the time, and I spent a week on a Tony Bridge Wedderburn workshop, thank you. Mania Toto, middle of winter, even more angsty. And a friend of mine said, why don't you just try to get some of your emotion into an audiovisual? Maybe it will be cathartic. And it was. Very personal, and most of the images, maybe 80% of the images in this one you're going to see were taken at Wedderburn. I'm pretty sure everybody here is aware of Tony. He also puts people out of their comfort zones. And if you've ever done that workshop down in Wedderburn and sat in the cold forest in Naseby and been told to make an image, that's where this particular AV started. So I don't want to show it to you because I think it's good, because I don't any longer. I want to show it to you so that I can point out the things that I wouldn't do any longer, things that, to me, drag it down. So it's a learning experience, hopefully. Anyway, let's play it, and then I'll tell you what I don't like about it. Thank you. I don't know if you know the track. I sing the words all the way through that, even though, I mean, it's a Metallica song and I know it very well. That probably helps my thinking as I watch that audiovisual. When it was played at Tauranga, because it took out the novice and the music, poetry and song the year that I entered it, the audience was just silent after it, and I thought, oh my, oops. I guess I didn't realise that it was powerful to me, that it would also be powerful to other people. So, the positives about that, it's relatively short. It's 3 minutes 47, and that includes the credits. I'm pleased that I chose that it was all monochrome. It gives a continuity to it. You're not jumping between monochrome and colour. Remember, this is the first time I played with Pro Show. It's the first time I've ever played with stop motion. I will always like the sign going up. And I know it's my son, so that's quite cool too. So I like the way that stop motion conveyed the title photographically. It obviously generates an emotive reaction, and for me it was very empowering. So those were the positive things about it. The negatives is a little bit of a longer list. I wouldn't typically now use both portrait and landscape. I think that jumps things around. If you can have that coherence of portrait or landscape, I think that adds to the reading of the story. There's a number of substandard images in there, and in my opinion, an audiovisual is not a place to throw just an okay image. All of them really need to be as top-notch as possible. It doesn't mean that each image needs to stand alone and tell a story, but they do need to be images that you are proud of, and there's some in there that I wouldn't ever use again. I feel that there are far too many transition types. 7 or 8, I can't go back into Pro Show to actually count them. And I think that was part and parcel of this being my first venture into audiovisuals and a little bit of the wizardry. To me, there are too many moving slides. Stop motion aside, there are images that come forward and back and little gizmos at the back. I feel that that's a bit amateur. Overdone. Did anybody have any opinion on the audiovisual that they want to share? It's okay if you don't, I'll keep going. Okay. The movement, it's a little bit frenetic. Yeah, I still think it's overdone. No. Yes. Absolutely. And I've done one called Truth, which we may or may not see, that's just square. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so hopefully those critiques of myself about what I've done might make you think about how you would approach formulating your own audiovisual. In terms of the process, several steps. Personally, I always start with the audio. That's just me. I knew I wanted that track, and in the other ones, I've always started with the music or the spoken word, whatever. You'll be aware that PSNZ has a bylaw that affects Jack Sprosen and the Tauranga Salon, saying that you can't use musical tracks that you don't have the rights to. Not at club level, that's fine. When I was on council, I disagreed with that a lot. I understand the rationale because it brings our national and international competitions into line with the rest of the world. But to me, it flattens your choice. It flattens the genre, which is already a little bit of a fight to get people interested in the genre, and and it removes the luster of using a track that maybe everybody knows. Personal opinion. I also think it's contradictory that we could speak the lyrics, we could sing them ourselves, or we can recite poetry without seeking permission. So as I say, I've always started with the music. There's been one audiovisual that will never see the light of day because I didn't finish it. I loved the song called Melody's Actual Echo Chamber by Brian Jonestown Massacre. It didn't work because the enunciation of the lyrics by the singer, it wasn't clear. I knew them because I knew the song quite intimately, but I knew that other people wouldn't be able to hear what he was saying. So that one kind of bit the dust. When I made Alice, which some of you here may have seen last year, I contacted the agents for Jefferson Starship, but they didn't respond. I asked permission, but nobody came back to me. So, what more can you do, really? And I would keep using popular music. Your alternatives. There are plenty of free sound effects. In the last AV that I made that we will see, I used waves because I tried recording them, but there's too much wind and they sounded terrible. It was just hopeless. I have recorded the Dawn Chorus in Kakadu. That worked okay. And in the second AV we'll see tonight, the typewriter sounds are obviously mine. And I think recording your own sounds is an opportunity for self-expression, which the whole audiovisual process is. When you're using the spoken word, I think you need to use a program similar to Audacity. There must be alternatives out there, so that you stop the sibilants and the pops, pops and T's and stuff like that, because when it's being played, it just is very, very noticeable. So Audacity, I have to relearn it every time I use it because I use it about once every 2 years. But if I can do it, I'm sure everybody else can. I think it's important to remember that the audio is the supporting actor. Your images tell the story is key. So if the audio overpowers your images, I think you are likely to fail in your intended outcome. As an introduction to my second section, which is about the images, I'd like to play you some stills from an audiovisual called Truth. I want to do that because it's about the 7 deadly sins, and when I had drafted it, the little mentor that sits on my shoulder and lives at home said to me, why are you saying, what's the first one? Lust. And why are you writing those words? I said, well, I didn't know how else to do it. And he said, do it photographically. So here is the first sin, and it tells the story, doesn't it? It gives you the word, and it was also quite fun going into Resine and asking them for an empty paint tin and telling them what I was going to do with it. So I've just got the 7 sins, if we can just step through, please. So there we go, gluttony. It's fun working out how to show things photographically. And I understand that that's written, but it's still not text coming up courtesy of ProShow. Monopoly money seemed fairly relevant for greed. Sloth, okay. Wrath. That's a fence post that I just drew on. That was also quite fun. And it's green, it's got all of those underlying impacts to it. And pride. That eye actually opens eventually. So, which just quickly, another thing is that I have found with the various AVs that I've put together, people are really willing to help. If you ask them to do something stupid, like have pride written on their eyelid or whatever, or in Seeing Absence, which is the next one I'm going to play, there's a guy from APS and his daughter who walk into the water for me. People will do things if you ask them. I think that's... the people with the tape on their face. Don't know if I'd do it, but anyway. So that was to try to show you why I think that portraying words visually, it's kind of a contradiction, rather than having them come up being written by pro-show, is something that you can explore and have fun with. So that's the introduction to the images. Personally, when I'm making an audio-visual, I start with a storyboard. And my storyboard is simply a graph, like an empty calendar. And I don't draw on it, I write on it because I'm not an artist, drawer. And by doing that, I can identify which images are missing because I've got the story already in my head. Even if you were going, for example, to a one-off event, you might have been there before, a rugby game, at the nines, whatever, you know what's going to happen, and so you have in your mind the images that you would like to capture. So I think if you approach it conceptually, you can work out the gaps and how to fill them in. I did do an audio-visual on the nines, the inaugural nines, and then the next one. Again, that's not going to really see the light of day either. That was personal because I just liked all the dress-ups and that was fun. You can use video. I haven't ever done that because I haven't had a camera that had that capability, and I don't use my phone for photographs. There was an AV I saw in Tauranga that had a shot of very ornately dressed Thai. I think they were military people. That was a still. And then all of a sudden they started marching. And the video kicked in and the marching sounds kicked in. And it was really, really effective. So you can use video. And you can use stop motion. So I have got a little collection, 1, 2, 3, 5 stop motion examples. I've got written down here, I can't remember if I've given myself time in between them, to tell you when you do stop motion you can have the image, and the transition. You can have the image on for time, transition time. Let's just play them and I'll tell you what I used for each. Thank you. So there won't be any sound with this. Nope, not that one. Nope. Stop motion examples. It should be number 3. Number 3. Oh, okay. Well, that's tricky. Nope. Yes, here we go. I can't see. Okay, so that was the introduction and the end to Mad World. I can't really see what I'm doing here. It's 23 slides. Each one was on for 0.15 and the transitions were 0. So Chasing Demons, that introduction, the images were on for 1 second each and the transition was 0. That one's, each image was on for 0.15 and the transitions were 0 again. And it used a cut transition. The next one is only 6 slides. This is the flag. No. No, you just, the one that had Mad World, it just needs to continue. It's got several in there. I've just left a gap so I can burble in the middle. Sorry, Ian?
How did you make the pictures? So while that's burning, presumably you just had your camera on a thing and just went click, click, click.
Yeah.
Did you have a timer? Or?
No, handheld 23 clicks. And I just put that back to front so that it unburnt, and at the end of that it burns. So the next one should be a flag, and it's only 6 slides. And this is where I sort of change technique, and the image is there for 0. All you're seeing is the transition. So the transitions there were a second, and I used a different sort, I used a A-B, I don't know how to describe it. What we're going to see next is, there's 2 from the AV I showed you last year. This is Alice with the paint can. Again, no, we're not going to get the paint can, never mind, that's fine. We've got Alice walking. So again, the images are there for 0. You're watching the transition. And in that case, the transition is 2 seconds. It's only 5 slides, but okay, I think we might kill that one. We've missed out on the paint can, but that doesn't matter. So I think the thing there is that you can use stop motion in so many different ways by playing with the transition. I don't know how I worked out that if you have the image on for 0 seconds, that you're looking at the transition, but it makes quite an impact, I think. So the construction of your audiovisual, a lot like life, a beginning, a middle, and an end. I think that audiovisuals that just leave you hanging or without a final statement are a wee bit lacking. Obviously, that beginning, middle, and end needs to tell a story. In terms of construction, keep it as short as you can. You're allowed 5 minutes for regular AVs, 7 minutes for documentaries, and in all honesty, if I have to watch 3 or 4 or 5 7-minute documentaries about things I'm not interested in, my mind just wanders. So try to keep it succinct. If you're using text, like your Star Wars text, I've seen that done in an AV when the text just all scrolls up, leave it on the screen longer than you think. You've written the text, you've watched it 10, 100, 1,000 times. You know what's coming, but the person in your audience doesn't know, and they've got to take time to read it. So give it to a family member or a stranger and leave the text there longer than anticipated. Ian asked me to talk about programs. I use ProShow. I know it's not available any longer. I've still got it. It's not updated. I believe you can use Photoshop. I don't have Photoshop. And there are various other video editors. I'm sure that there are people within the audience who know a lot more about that than I do. And are there any questions? And if there aren't, we will play Seeing Absence and I can have a drink of water. Again, this is personal, and I want to share it with you because for me it's an introduction to the emotional authenticity of an audiovisual. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
So you think you can tell heaven from hell, blue skies from pain, you to trade your heroes for ghosts, hot ashes for trees, and hot air for a cool breeze, cold comfort for cheer. And did you exchange a walk-on part of the wall for a lead role in a cage? How I wish you were here. We're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl, year after year, running over the same old ground. What have we found? The same old fear. And I wish that you were here. You were here. How I wish you were here. Running over the same old ground. What have we found? The same old fear. And I wish that you were here. That one always gets me. So that was really an introduction to the need for a story. I think an audiovisual should always aim to evoke emotion in the viewer. I would recommend that you choose a topic that inspires you. In doing so, your outcome is likely to be more authentic. I went to Kakadu, I can't remember the year. I knew I wanted to make an audiovisual about it, but I didn't want it to be a tourist AV. So after we were there, actually, I decided that I would abstract it. It would all be about colour. And I mean, it's an extremely colourful place, so that it wasn't endless landscapes and things that other people could see. It was abstracted colour. And before I forget, obviously that was an AV all done in your portrait orientation you were asking before. Yeah. So an audiovisual, its effectiveness works from the unity of the story, the visuals and the audio. That's stating the obvious, but so often when you watch AVs, they don't click. They don't click at all. As a judge, what am I looking for in an AV, or what is a PSNZ judge looking for? I know that you shouldn't be making these to suit the judge that will be commenting and critiquing, but it doesn't hurt. When I'm judging AVs, I look for a storyline that conveys a concept.
Has it still got my interest at the end of the audiovisual? You can have a big whiz-bang start, and if I'm bored by the end, then I don't think that audiovisual is successful. You've got your construction, the quality of the images, and the structure of the audio. They all have to meld. Typically, a judge is a stranger, a person unknown to you, and unknown to the subject. So you need to, or any audience, you need to grab their attention and don't take for granted that they know things. It's a little bit like the text on the screen. Don't take for granted that the obvious is obvious to strangers. That doesn't really make sense. It made sense in my head. So if you're doing like a one-off local event, the people here know all about a local Christchurch event. Somebody international or somebody like me from Auckland won't know the event, and that changes the slant that you take on the audiovisual. It may make you be a wee bit more factual. Just think about your audience. Be concise. I've said it before. Be concise. And don't add more images just because you have them. You might have 10 extra stunning images, not okay ones, but stunning ones, but if the story doesn't need them, don't use them. When I'm looking to judge an audiovisual, every image needs to have a place. Okay, I'm just kind of reiterating do's and don'ts, starting with the don'ts. Personal opinion, remember? Try not to use the written word to explain an obvious situation. So birds flying can be visually illustrated without words running along the bottom saying birds flying. I mean, you can move the image across the screen. You could take the image with intentional camera movement. Try to convey things photographically. It's a photographic genre. Try not to use too many transitions. In my opinion, the technical wizardry doesn't add to your story. It can take over and it can hide your images and it can hide your intended outcome, your intent. Again, don't use substandard imagery. I'm repeating myself, but don't go on for too long. I'm trying not to go on for too long. Your audience attention span is really, really important. I prefer audiovisuals that don't use a hodgepodge of aspect ratios. Talked about it before. I think you keep the simplicity and the flow of the story going if you're not transitioning from landscape to portrait and too often. Don't think that your holiday to wherever is a viable topic for an audience wider than your family and friends, unless you extract an aspect of it to make it more generic. Personal opinion. When you come to the end of your audiovisual, don't stop your music just like that. Fade it. There's so many times that you get to the end of the credits and just boom, the music's gone. That's a wee bit amateur, I suppose. So work out how to fade your audio. If you are combining audio tracks, do it seamlessly. Don't stop one, start another one. It becomes disjointed. And this is where you would use Audacity. Or if you're in Pro Show, you can run tracks simultaneously. It's just about keeping things smooth. So, do's. It's a wee bit like a SWOT, isn't it? Everything that's got a plus, it's got a minus. So do keep it short. There's a PSNZ, it's wider than that. It's an international group called 321, Challenge 321, and those AVs must be 3 minutes, 21 seconds. And it's a really good way to make you think concisely. Minimise your transition types. Sometimes you can use transitions to emphasise speed. So if your audio gets faster, you can use more choppy transitions to accentuate the speed of the audio. Do try to tell your story visually, storyboard if that's how it works for you. Be prepared to cut and retake and perfect if you've got the opportunity to do so. I understand with a one-off event that's not so possible, but I guess you just take more images. There is a closed PSNZ AV Facebook group, so if you don't belong to that, have a look at it. It's a really great place to watch examples. I am pretty sure, probably both Jack's Bros and Tauranga finalists are shown there. It's a good way to keep up with information and trends and just widen your viewing. Do take your time and do have fun, I think. I do have one other AV to play if you want to see it, and I'm happy to take any questions prior or during or after. Well, Chasing Demons didn't have lyrics for a start. It did also have a bit of choppy changiness around the cars. Typically, I will put an image on a second or so before the lyric actually comes out, so that you're looking at the image, and then and then the word comes. Go, okay, that's why that image is there. What was it called? The Seeing Absence. There's an image of a door chained with a chain around it, and do you exchange for a lead? The lyric is a lead role in the cage, and so that's there before you get the lyric, and then to me that makes you understand it better. Does that make sense? Good. No other questions, or would you like to listen to Sojourn? Watch. Yeah. So this I finished last year. There's more personal turmoil, that's my life. Completely different because it is spoken, because I wasn't allowed to use non-accredited music. Okay, thank you. Wind brushed, water, washed by the sand, grained with signatures of gulls, temporary as moments, flicking their feet into the sky, waiting for gusts. Shadows now glide above us and round. The rock darkness stirs. We walk and talk, picking up objects. We link with the past, exploring the fragility of time, stories of lives in a piece of flotsam. Again it's quill to write. Midwinter rain finer than drift.
stroking the curve of the coast. Sharper than whales etched on the horizon in 19th century views. Spirits wail and leave. In the sand, a watermark. At the water's edge, gods breathe the lifted wave into song.
So that was an example of using, that was the waves, free waves, speaking somebody else's poem, Remke in thing, I can't remember her name, it was actually New Zealand Poet Laureate, and that poem came from a very slim volume called Muriwai that I read at Muriwai, so it just all sort of made sense to me. And it was 3 minutes 20, so relatively short, which is also good. That's really all I wanted to say. Please ask questions. Yeah. It does. It's like stop motion. I think the sort of ideal weighting of it is that you wouldn't use more than 20%. And that's similar with the stop motion as well. So you can't have a whole time lapse. Well, I suppose you could. You could try that. I haven't seen rules that say you can't provide it all and stop. What do you say? Time lapse, but yeah, I'm not sure. No other questions? No comments? No? Yes. Sorry? Yes, but why would you? Would have to be a very short piece of music. I think you're better off trying to choose a piece of music that fits the time span. Otherwise, it's be like looking at the pictures all over again. It would be a little bit boring, personally. I think you're better off finding something that fits the length of your story. Nothing's stopping you from doing that, but typically I would use an audio track like Chasing Demons was 3 minutes 47, so I knew how long that was, and this is where it comes back to storyboarding it. So I knew approximately how many images I needed. I didn't cut that music off at all. I made an audio visual that advertised the National Convention in Auckland, and we used, without permission, I can't think of the name of the group, but it was about a 6-minute song, but it had a natural finish at 3 minutes 40-ish, so we just stopped it there, we just faded it out. You just got to be careful that where you fade it, that it's logical. Yeah? Yeah. Oh, sorry. It's funny, I don't know. No, more 60, 70. Depends if you're using stop motion. It's funny, I never thought about how many there were. I should have. I can let you know. But if you're using stop motion, like the Mad World one, that's 23 images on its own. Sojourn was really an excuse to try to convey the beauty of Muriwai and to hang a story around it. That one doesn't have so many images. Yeah?
I just want to say that this evening's been inspiring to me. Your work is inspiring.
Thank you.
But the way you talk about it, passion comes through in a quiet, deliberate way. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Great. Thank you. It's always good to have good promo. Keep you on.
It's the emotion that comes through.
Thank you. Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Diana.
Could you talk a little about the Muriwai one?
Yep.
Did you go there with in your head that you were going to make an AV there, or you went to Muriwai for your sojourn and it just happened?
Both. Both.
So how did you get on when it comes to putting it together afterwards with a whole different things you felt like going, bugger, I could go and take such and such?
Well, I could, because I was still living in Auckland. Yeah. I've stayed at that particular home. I've house sat there 3 times, and the first time I was there, I picked up, I don't normally read poetry, but I picked up that little slim volume. I sat out in the sun with a Pinot Noir, and I thought, oh, this is really good. And when I went back for that week, I thought, I'm going to use that poem. And I think it was enhanced by the fact that it was the middle of winter, the place was deserted. Where I was staying was not on the beach, so I had to make a conscious effort to go down and walk and get really frustrated trying to record the waves. There are a couple of images in there that are not Muriwai, but nobody knows, except for me and you, but you don't know which ones. But, pardon? I didn't hear that. Oh, no, that's right. The gull that's flicking its feet, that's actually Akaroa. But that's okay. You know, it was an image that fitted the words, so poetic license. Not necessarily, yeah. Not necessarily. There was too many words there that I couldn't convey with an image, so that's where you got the more generic landscape, seascapes, but they were mixed with ones like a piece of flotsam, so you got the seaweed or a gull's quill, or so I think there were enough images that fitted the words that brought it back to reality. It worked for me, I think. But it's so hard speaking that poem. I can't tell you how many times I did it into my phone in a room all quiet, and then you listen to it and the P's pop or the T's or the K's, and I can still hear it there. You probably could too, for the amount of time I spent battling with Audacity to try to get those consonants down, and I ended up speaking it more quietly. I would come to a T or something, I would sort of say it quietly, and hopefully not have to faff around in Audacity too much.
You said you made a video at Kakadu.
Yes.
Similar sort of colours for it. Is there a place that we can go and see that?
No?
You don't have it with you tonight?
No, I don't. Didn't find that one. I can bring it along another night if I can find it. It's part of the trouble with pro-show, and when you publish them, they're not always necessarily findable in my esoteric way of filing things. I do have 2 others here. I don't want to bore you. Hey? Not too many. What's still on the stick? We've got truth. Oh, okay. Now, people here have seen Alice. Some people here have seen Alice before. Let's just do truth, shall we? Because this is the one where the stills came from. You'll also see that before each sin, the numbers are also photographic. I haven't written them. It is unfortunately the longest one I've ever made. So.
Truth. Trick me into doing battle, calling out fake up, wanna get me rattled, wanna pull me back behind the fence with the cattle, building your lenses, digging your trenches, put me on the front line, leave me with a dumb mind with no defenses, but your defenses. If you can't stand to feel the pain, then you are senseless. Since this, I've grown up some different kind of fire, and when the darkness comes, let it inside you. Your darkness is shining. My darkness is shining, everything in myself. True. I've seen a million number doors on the horizon. Now which is the future you're choosing before you gon' die? And I'll tell you about a secret I've been undermining. Every little lie in this world come from dividing. Say you're my love, say you're my home. Till my chin back, slit my throat, take a bath in my blood, get to know me. All out of my secrets, all my enemies are turning into my teachers. Because light's blinding, no way dividing what's yours or mine when everything's shining. And your darkness is shining, my darkness is shining. Have faith in ourselves.
Beautiful is the proof of the truth in the shoes in the youth when they just do what they naturally do. Truth is natural, it's actual, and it's factual. Perfection, pragmatic and practical, unabbreviated. That which has not been deviated, imperishable, cannot be alleviated. It's the language of God, for it's He who created it and made it. Even when the man is cremated down to his ashes, his essence remains in the gases. Lies disintegrate as all time passes. Although illusions has been accepted by the masses, and they teach us lies every day in high school classes. Divine and sublime, unaffected by space, motion, or time. Truth, the intrinsic nature of the mind. It's correct, but man had miscalculated. They misrepresented and they misinterpreted. If it feels right in the darkness, regardless, your pure heart or heartless. It's the truth. It's the truth.
That's all.
No more questions, anyone? Well, a special thank you, Karen. This is a little thing from us.
Thank you.
Thank you, that was awesome.
Thank you.
And, I didn't oversell you at all.
You might have. If you would like me to come back and judge, you
I
can.
thought he was going to say that.
Oh, there. The offer is there. So might keep Mad World for another day. I can play that then. Thank you all for turning up and for staying and not leaving halfway through, and for hopefully enjoying some fairly emotive audio visuals, especially seeing Absence. As I said, that one about my friends Sue and Albert just gets me every time. Okay, thank you.
Two seconds of MC stuff to basically say what's happening next week. 7 p.m, Richard Foote will be doing YouTube for Dummies. So if anybody wanted to stick their AV on YouTube, then there's a really good opportunity. And then Print 2 with James Gibson. So thanks to everybody who set things up and ran the evening tonight. I think it was fantastic and I really enjoyed it, and I'm hoping we're going to see lots of AVs this year. So thanks. See you next week.